amazing, and you're just pretty fresh here, aren't you?
Isfahan's absolutely super, and I probably won't like Yazd nearly as much, but
you will actually.
It's very different.
I really do want to go to Yazd because I'm fascinated by
the flurry of diplomatic activity and the surge in trade along the Silk Route during the Safavid era was not least driven by the desire of Europeans to buy the exquisite silk cloth and other goods that to some degree are still produced here today.
Shah Abbas wanted to see the best possible handicraft or art in general in Isfahan. And there's always something new to learn in Isfahan. If you go through the main corridor of Bazaar, you find new caravanserais, new madrasas, and especially the Bazaar in crawling phenomenon, it finds its way. And I think the most authentic Bazaar in Iran, in actually many ways, is Isfahan.
But other than that, are you happy with the hotels that you stayed in? Satisfactorily comfortable and yeah.
Certainly the one here is
luxurious.
Yes.
Yeah, very luxurious.
No complaints.
Because it helps, doesn't it? You get a good night's sleep.
Most definitely.
Yes.
I mean, every hotel we've stayed at has been
very nice.
It's been very comfortable, clean.
Good. Does it help when you're staying in Iran, if you're staying in an interesting hotel or a comfortable hotel, does it make a big difference to you?
Yeah, it does. It definitely makes the experience. You've got the heritage, you feel you've got some contact with Iran's history and the Persian side.
The Abbasi Hotel is the most famous hotel in Iran. Its delightful garden in the courtyard full of flowers and fountains is a relaxing retreat from the surrounding city. Massive bridges cross this lovely river that runs through the city, and many date back to the 17th century. Not only functional, but beautiful to look at, they're a favourite place for Esfahanis to sit and relax in the evening. For 400 years, there's been a significant Armenian Christian minority living in Esfahan, and the cathedral they built here is the historic focal point of the Armenian Church in Iran, and an example of their skill and faith in God. Both the exterior and the interior reveal a fusion of Armenian and Persian traditions, particularly where the Christian frescoes on the wall sit happily above the Persian tilework below. Chehel Satoon was a royal pavilion, set in green and leafy gardens, and embellished with terraces that blur the boundaries between inside and outside. This building appears to epitomize the splendid lifestyle of the royal court, and the interior paintings reveal sumptuous banquets and lavish entertainment, and celebrate hard-won military victories over various Turkmen and Turkish neighbors.
I'm more interested in ancient culture personally, but it's fascinating to get an insight into how the Iranians live now. And having an Iranian guide helps in that, because he would tell you what is the real Iran as opposed to what you read in the guidebooks and what media wants you to believe is the real Iran. And I reckon Iran's one of the most misunderstood countries in the world. I bought a long covering gown and a headscarf in Dubai, so that at least I could err on the side of caution before I came, but I realised once I was here that it was actually a lot less strict than I imagined.
Can you tell me if you've stayed in any really nice hotels that you've really enjoyed and will remember, you know?
So far there's one outstanding hotel in my mind, and that's the caravanserai we went to. And it was just in the middle of a desert, and it looked like it was brand new. Fortified castle, in effect. And inside it just opened up into glorious arches.
Wow, well, we're all quite excited to be here because this, to my knowledge, is the first original Shah Abbas caravanserai which has been meticulously restored and is now used again somewhat close to its original purpose as a hotel. And in fact we can see how its reputation has gone ahead, because here's a book full of wonderful, you know, we loved staying in this hotel from many, many people. Time and time again, making this film, people have told us that they're not looking for five-star international luxury with satellite televisions and internet connections. They're looking for something authentic and something that they feel is real, and by and large they find that in Iran, and that's great. But I think this must be an example of the very best of that, because this caravanserai, not only is it a genuinely old building, beautifully restored, but it's kind of fascinating as well, because this is a real room in a caravanserai set up with carpets on the floors and cotton mattresses, and it just is wonderful. It looks fantastic. You feel you want to take the carpets home with you, and they're all slightly different, and the rooms are all set around that central courtyard, and it really is the very best. And I think this, wow, well, this is the central courtyard, and the open to the sky, and in fact the rooms all go off this courtyard, and this is probably the nearest any of us will ever get to really creating that whole feeling of travelling in that marvellous sort of era.
Ancient villages dot the landscape of Iran, where time passes more slowly than in towns. And now often they're lived in only by a handful of old people who tend their crops and still live a seasonal and traditional life. Yazd province is the home to the largest Zoroastrian community in Iran. These followers of Iran's pre-Islamic religion are the guardians of an ancient heritage, whose symbolic presence is everywhere in Iran, from fire temples to the many non-Islamic festivals that are celebrated by nearly everyone, particularly the Persian New Year and the Midwinter Festival of Yalda on the winter solstice. In accordance with beliefs about purity, Zoroastrians were not buried in the ground, but laid out on these high platforms known as Towers of Silence, to be consumed over time by vultures. Situated between two deserts, Yazd is a distinctive and ancient city with a fascinating network of alleys and wandering bazaars. Summer temperatures are very high, and the skyline is dotted with the precursors of air conditioning, wind towers. Yazd is loved by travellers for its relaxed and easygoing atmosphere, and the emergence over the last few years of restored courtyard houses as hotels has added to its attractions for Iranian and foreign tourists alike.
اینجا روستای گرمه، کویر مرکزی، خور و بیابانک. توریستایی که از همه جای دنیا و ایران میان معمولا توی این منطقه علاقه‌مندن که وقتی میان اینجا اون چیزی که در اصل در قدیم وجود داشته ببینن، همون آداب و رسومی که بوده، همون غذایی که پخته میشده و همون نحوه زندگی. ولی همین هست که خیلی به ایران علاقه نشون میدن.
Enjoy very much. It's something special, especially the children. I think this is a real part of Iran.
Is this the image you had in your mind of Iran, do you think, before you came?
Never. We never expect like this. Iranian people are so friendly and heartwarming, just welcome everywhere. Then also just look at this nature. This is just wonderful.
When we thought about Iran, we always thought like only stay in one place.
Yeah.
But it was the opposite.
Yes. And travel is quite easy, isn't it?
Yes, quite easy. I mean, even there's some difficulties in the language, but people try to use the body language, and they're really helpful people. Yeah, we managed. We managed to go wherever we want to go.
Would you like to do a really long trip?
The lonely and pristine environment of these vast deserts has made them a daunting challenge to travellers and Iranians alike. Yet it's the diversity between landscapes, people and culture that makes this country so interesting.
Yeah, easier than some of the other countries I've had to travel in by myself, and in terms of bravery I think Iran requires much less.
The Iranian people are really easy to get on with, and they're really easy to talk to, and they're only too happy to extend their hospitality to you, which is something that's rare for us Europeans. And I think that the one overriding memory that I'll take away from Iran is the kindness and the hospitality of the people there. I think it's great.
Well, it looks like snow, but it isn't. It's salt. A dry salt lake desert, on the edge of an even bigger desert, and one of many salt lakes in Iran. They're fun to come to, although they are effectively devoid of life. But of course, when it rains, suddenly and momentarily, they become lakes again.
If you want to really learn about ancient culture and about history and about the civilization that's gone on for centuries, then Iran is the place to see that.
When talking about ancient landscapes, it's hard to know where to start. But this is one of the most magnificent ziggurats in the world, and was built by the Elamites, the first indigenous Iranian civilization.
We're looking up into Chogazamba, which is the biggest ziggurat in the world, and its survival is remarkable. Over 3,500 years old, it's still standing in this quite lonely landscape here. The area we're looking out over now is one of the most ancient in Iran in terms of settlements and civilizations, and has been continuously occupied and lived in for about 7,000 years. All around me are these tiles with cuneiform inscriptions which urge the survival of this building against all odds, and in 1979 it was made a World Heritage Site.
The stories of Shahnameh by Ferdowsi blend history and myth, and have been popular and patriotic entertainment for generations of Iranians. These epic stories are still well known and used to be told aloud to audiences in tea houses, where the walls would often be decorated with scenes from the book. Shiraz, a city of gardens and nightingales, roses and poetry. The tomb of Hafez is here, Iran's beloved 14th century poet. Most homes in Iran have a copy of Hafez alongside the Quran, and yet the attraction of this poet is the untranslatable, mystical quality of his verses, and their openness to multiple. The countryside surrounding Shiraz has an ideal climate for living outside, and has long been the home to various pastoral nomads, whose way of life, sadly, is becoming an anachronism in the modern age. However, we've come and are spending some time with a couple of families of Qashqai nomads, and hoping to find out a little about the way they live.
میتونی برایم توضیح بده درباره این زندگی شماست این چیزی ها روز
توضیحش اینه که هیمه یاریم او یاریم وکن تمناری بفیم دوی زنیم درفی شوریم ممون ردی کنیم کارمون همینه.
Even though all my friends said, why are you going there? It's dangerous.
You know, what are you going to see? Are you going to buy carpets? I said, of course not, for God's sake. You know, there are so many things behind it. So I see every day what I was expecting and even more. And it's really pity, and I think it's a terrible thing that, because I'm a journalist myself, so I know how media manipulates with the images of countries and cultures, and it's so wrong.
It's a very nice country, and offering a lot for tourists. I think it's Iran deserve to be more visited.
In Isfahan is the nicest city. I think it's one of the nicest cities. And I like the north part of Iran too.
What do you think of Shiraz?
I like it very much. It's a very nice city.
Yeah. What do you like
and
about it?
The best one is Persepolis.
You've been to Persepolis?
Yes. Oh, 3 times.
For many Iranians, the remains here at Persepolis, or Takht Jamshid as it's known here, are the most meaningful historical buildings in Iran. And the reason for that is that this is the ceremonial center of the Achaemenid dynasty, which was one of the most successful and powerful civilizations of the ancient world. The construction started in about 500 years BC by Darius the Great and was used as a place in spring, probably, where all the subject people from this vast empire would come and pay homage and give gifts. And you can see this revealed very well and in some detail on the reliefs on the stonework around here. 200 years later, in 300 BC, the arrival of Alexander the Great from Greece saw its defeat and downfall very rapidly, because he arrived, swiftly defeated the Persian armies, and then in some sort of fit of pique here at Persepolis burnt this entire place to the ground, and that really was the end of this dynasty there and then. He removed from here tons and tons and tons of gold, literally truckloads of gold, probably on camels at the time, and he used that to finance the rest of his campaigns for the next 10 years of his life before he died, on into the east, further on towards India.
Regarde, il y a des parties qui sont plus brillantes que les autres parties. Voilà, même les aveugles visitent Persepolis. Bon, ils se sont...
We see the other side of the medal of this country, and this is so surprising, so amazing in terms of human dimension.
The point of view of culture, of literature, friendliness of people, that is really amazing.
This wonderfully rich sense of love of literature and the integration of art and literature, and how that infuses in the soul of so many Iranians, and how that forms their need to express themselves in beautifully sophisticated metaphoric fashion. And I find that just a new color in the rainbow for me. It's beautiful.
When the Greeks razed this center to the ground, they left the city of Pasargad, which was the city of the founder of this empire, Cyrus the Great, untouched. And the reason for that is their respect for him was so great as a ruler, and so they moved on and they didn't touch it.
For us, it's a basis of our culture in Europe.
Yes, it is.
And if you are interested in history, then you realize that things that have passed here, history and all these monuments have to do something with us.
After death, the bones of the Achaemenid rulers were placed in these rock chambers high up above the ground, after they'd been picked clean by vultures. The abstract concepts of heaven and hell were developed by Zoroastrianism, and consideration for nature is central to the religion, with importance given to earth, fire, wind, and water at different times of the year. To the north of the Alborz Mountains lies the green and verdant Caspian Sea region, with a reputation for being more secular in character, but more importantly where Iran grows rice, tea and oranges, the everyday staples of most Iranian homes. High rainfall and rich wetlands and coastal waters make the entire area productive for both fishing and farming. We're just outside the town of Lahijan in the Caspian coast, which is the centre of Iranian tea industry. And as you can see, it's very, very green, and it's hot and it's humid. And the Caspian is really, I think, the Iranians' favourite place in the whole of Iran to come on holiday. Marsouleh is one of the UNESCO World Heritage Sites in Iran. A little village perched up on a hillside surrounded by jungle, which is a Persian word incidentally, or forest, and often snowed under in winter, but warm and sunny for the rest of the year, and it's still very much alive and lived in. In this particular area of the Caspian, where the hills are not covered in dense jungle, effort is put into growing tea. Whole tour and bicycle. Whole tour.
Around the world.
16 months. Actually quite fit.
Good legs.
The weather is cold.
No, it's really, really hot actually. Really
Compared
hot.
to Pakistan, it's much nicer.
I think in the south it must be like 35 degrees here now, and in Tehran it's 30 degrees or something like that, you know. It might be
It's not
raining.
so bad.
No, it's really nice.
In Pakistan we get until 50 degrees. Oh, in the desert, like
Tehran is an intriguing mix of traditional and modern, a vast city which has crept up from the south into the foothills of the Alborz, where orchards and old villas join to avoid the heat or the crowds, either in the many parks or by hiking right out of the back of the city up into the mountains, which many people do every weekend.
I have 500 grams. So what are these? These are 5,000 kilos.
Looks like somebody's bottom, doesn't it?
Thank you.
How was your holiday?
Awesome.
What did you like about it?
Well, we've travelled for 40 years, and this is one of the best places I've been.
When we were driving home late at night, they were still picnicking. Yeah, mums and dads and children. It was lovely.
It actually makes it a very safe country, actually, because everyone stays up very late.
I
They
would,
keep
I
their
would
children.
come back here by myself. That wouldn't worry me at all. Wouldn't worry me at all.
How do you get a feel for what's going on in Iran now?
Openness Americans and mountains. I mean, those two things.
Mountains.
I think. Yeah, I didn't think there were any mountains south of Tehran, and there were a lot, and they had snow on them. I thought we were going in the wrong direction.
Coming out up on the plane and being able to see the landscape under you, and now going back, I'm going to be glued to that.
I really enjoyed the beauty of the interior of all the mosque and the mausoleums, and I mean this room is so beautiful. I really was not expecting that breathtaking.
To go just a little further away from Tehran takes you to Mount Damavand, the highest mountain in Iran, whose dramatic beauty and snow-capped peaks have been the source of inspiration to generations of artists and poets.
ای گذشته از فرازوی زمان ای ستون سربلند آسمان سربلندی از تو چون معنا گرفت آتشی شد عشق در تو جا گرفت.
تبلیغات شما با بخش بازرگانی پیام جوان رساتر از همیشه، فراتر از مرزها، همراه با آخرین تکنولوژی روز در مجله، اینترنت، تلویزیون و تلفن همراه برای همگان قابل دسترسی است. با ما باشید تا همیشه جوان باشید.